Hello and welcome to the Energy Realities podcast with David Blackmon in Texas. How are you today, David?
Just lovely. It's just nothing going on. Calm day here in Texas. So I don't know. I'm bored.
Nothing going on. You're one lucky man. And we've got Tammy Nemeth in the UK. Are you?
No, I'm in Canada today.
Oh, you're in Canada. How are things in Canada?
It is a typical sort of Alberta spring where it's plus 18 one day and snowing the next. So it's been quite fun here actually.
Oh, that's nice. And Stu Turley, I dare not imagine where you are. Where are you?
I was just in a bunker somewhere, but I'll tell you what's kind of fun. Is that a wanted poster, Dr. Nemeth, behind you of wanted people that you've captured in your running around Canada? I'm just kind of curious.
No, it's a bunch of music from the people I'm staying with have this little music room, and I'm in the music room.
Oh, wow.
So lovely.
Very cool.
What kind of music?
Well, I think that is Elvis and the Beatles.
Oh, that's
various
Elvis
others.
in the middle. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
Elvis.
It
Yay,
beats a
Elvis
wanted
is in the
poster.
building.
All right, so today we're going to talk about something that Stuart has called the global energy supply crisis. It features things like Saudi Aramco cutting volumes of crude oil to be delivered to Asian customers, about 11 more specifically, tankers carrying LNG initially to Europe, diverting to Asia because prices are higher in Asia. Europe selling gasoline to Asia, even though some European countries have started capping fuel sales, which is very interesting. Who wants to go first? How bad is it going to get? Who wants to go first?
Well,
David.
I'll tell you, let's go ahead and give just a brief update here, and let's take a look at the Strait of Hormuz. Let me bring to the stage the Strait. And if you look at all the guppies lined up around here this morning, about 4, I was kind of watching these guys. There are 3 tankers that went rolling through the Strait. This is an Indian LPG tanker that just passed through. There's been about 15 tankers go through the Strait of Hormuz that I've calculated, and we've got a few others. This one's a China-owned. This is called the Bright Gold, and it has already gone through. So you've got some tankers going through. You've got several going on. Let me roll over to Yanbu over here. This is where the other guppy pool is. That could almost be another Marvel movie, Deadpool or Guppy Pool. I'm not sure which. But let's go take a look at some of the tankers here. They're averaging out about 5 million barrels per day between the 2 different loading docks that they have here. And they've got quite an assembly of things. That looks like a little tender ship there waiting for orders. But all that's going on. And then, so just for our podcast listeners, we also have a map of the pipeline going across. And this was from Bloomberg, I believe. But then the President Trump, he pleased to report, I love the way he notifies the world over the last 2 days. Good conversations. I'm glad that he's had good conversations. Based on that tenor and tone of these in-depth detail, I will delay bombing the Iranian power plants. And that is very important because let me add back to the stage the map. Let me just point out to our podcast listeners, this is a little bit of a very important point. And that is, we are now looking at Iran. And as you look at Iran, Iraq is right next over here. Where is Iraq?
Just to the left of Iran. at the
There you go.
Persian
Iraq
Gulf.
is right here. Thank you. And when you take a look at Iraq, Iraq gets 60% of their oil, their electricity from Iran. If Iran is bombed, how much oil goes out of Iraq? Because Iraq actually goes through over here. So that's about 1.7 million barrels per day. Iran is about 3.2 million barrels per day, ballparkish. And there is nothing over at Karg Island loading, at least with transponders on. So anyway, just wanted to share all that. And then I'm
Thanks, Stu.
sorry, I just as a brief
That's some great
update.
data.
So, David, how bad do you think it's going to get for the big energy importers?
Oh well, it's already bad. You know, on oil, we still just don't know. I mean, we can't know and won't know for another week or two. The president's message today on Truth Social caused crude prices to drop immediately, and then they've risen again, and they'll probably drop again as people absorb the data and the implications of what this means, if anything. Natural gas is where the problem really is, and LNG with Cutter down. You know, the United States can increase production to some extent immediately, but it's not that much, not 17% of the global market, that's for sure. We're going to have additional facilities come online later this year that, you know, will boost our capacity to send more cargoes to Europe and Asia. But this is going to be a long-term, years-long shortage of LNG on the market. Everyone needs to understand that. This is not something that Cheniere Energy is going to be able to solve in the coming weeks. With Qatar saying they're going to be down 3 to 5 years, that's just a major problem, especially for countries in Europe, I think, because the Asian countries have already shown they're willing to pay higher prices for the LNG cargoes. You know, and it's going to be controversial for some of these countries with the global community, the globalists who continue to subscribe to the dogma of the global church of climate alarm, are going to scream bloody murder, because we're already seeing in Asia countries now going back to burning coal. You know, they have all these dual use plants. They're not going to be able to get the LNG to power their economies with natural gas. Then they're going to go back to burning coal, and that means higher emissions. It means more apocalyptic statements coming from Antonio Guterres, our favorite circus clown at the UN. Fatih Birol may get a case of the vapors and you know, issue a stern warning on it, and at the IEA. And he's already demanded that we lower our speed limits back to 55 miles an hour in tribute to Jimmy Carter, to conserve petroleum, which is just the biggest bunch of waste of time I've ever seen. And but I guess the point is just, it doesn't matter what President Trump posts on True Social. We've had these long-term structural impacts now from this conflict on both oil and LNG. And, you know, you've got the CEO of Saudi Aramco over the weekend saying, you know, it's going to take us a year to repair their major refinery, whose name is slipping my mind now, that was hit by the Iranian drone. It's going to be a year where the production out of that refinery is going to be down by a fraction. And they're just one of dozens of facilities that have been hit. So this is going to cause a restructuring of supply and demand on the global market. Prior to February 28th, we had an oversupplied market. Coming out of this thing, assuming it does end fairly soon, we may not have an oversupplied market once things get back online and the Strait of Hormuz gets reopened. We might have a market that's in deficit long before anyone anticipated it would be. And there are long-term implications to that, since we've had this decade of the Larry Finks of the world forcing this ESG mania on major corporations and denying them capital they needed to, find and begin producing new reserves of oil. So our long-term market is already at a deficit, and this is going to exacerbate it. So there's just major implications for any country that imports oil or LNG, and they're going to be long-lasting.
That's really bad. And I read somewhere that in terms of oil production, Middle Eastern countries have shut in about 13 million barrels daily. That will take a while to bring back online. And a while doesn't mean a couple of days. So that's really tough as well. But
Right.
I agree with you that gas seems to be the bigger problem for large importers such as most European countries, big European economies. Tammy, what do you think about the recent idea by Energy Commissioner Dan Jorgensen, a well-known expert on all things energy, who said that the thing to do is to reduce the refill target for European member states from 90% by November to 80% by November, because this will reassure European countries and bring them certainty. Would you care to comment on that?
When I read that, I thought, what is he talking about? That's crazy. And how exactly does that help? I mean, I have no words. It was just stunning. And I'm like, and he said it with a straight face. It was very strange. But I would add that first of all, I think it's a big irony that the Asia is paying more for LNG because this is what the EU did in 2022, and
Yes.
after Nord Stream was blown up, they were going around paying the premium price and diverting supplies from Pakistan and various other countries that had these long-term contracts with Qatar and other producers who just were like, well, okay, we'll take force majeure and break the contract because Europe is offering so much more money. So it's kind of karma in a way that Asia is willing to pay more and the EU is kind of stuck. Then the other thing that I thought was really interesting is that some news organizations are reporting that Iran is basically extorting and ransoming tankers. So they're charging them $2 million to cross the strait. And I forget, they have a euphemism for it, where they're
Passage
escorting
fee.
them, right? It's not a ransom. They're
Not a
escorting.
ransom. Okay.
Not a ransom. Definitely not a ransom. We're just escorting you. $2 million to cross. So this is how they also generate revenue, and how do you stop that? How are they getting paid? And then there's the whole banking thing, which I don't want to get into. And then the third thing I just wanted to point out is, I know a lot of people are upset about what the IEA is putting out there, saying, don't drive so much, carpool, work from home, all these different kind of measures. But to be fair to the IEA, and which is hard, but this is what they were it's what they were set up for. This is one of their main things, that when they were formed in 1974, that it was about coming up with some form of collective or broad framework for when there is a crisis, so that countries don't start competing with one another and being focusing only on their own individual nation, the consuming countries, but rather they're cooperating, working together, all following the same kind of framework to reduce demand to alleviate the crisis. So this is nothing really new. If you go back to the recommendations they made in the 1979 oil crisis with the Iranian Revolution, very similar. People couldn't work from home back then, but a lot of the mechanisms and recommendations are pretty much the same. And they're also extremely similar to the 2022 recommendations. So this is kind of what the IEA was really set up for, and people get upset. Oh, Fatty Barrel's telling you shouldn't drive your car and all this. Well, wait until they start doing like they did in the 70s in Europe, where if your license plate is this kind, an odd number, you don't drive, but if it's an even number, you can drive today.
That's also among the suggestions, by the way.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But
So
isn't this really, really a no-brainer? I mean, it happens naturally. If you need to spend half your paycheck to fill your car's tank, you wouldn't be driving your car so much. You would be
That's
driving it as carefully as possible, and as well, not as slowly as possible, but that sweet spot. You wouldn't be speeding a lot. I mean, it's not just nothing new. It's nothing that all of us don't know.
You're right, but I think governments like to put it out there to show they're doing something and to exhibit
Oh,
leadership,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I agree.
So,
I agree.
so,
It
so
doesn't
it's
really
like,
seem
okay,
like leadership.
right. Okay. So in Calgary right now, where I am, they're replacing and fixing the water lines because the previous mayor let it all just kind of run down and everything else. And there was a huge water crisis a couple of years ago when the big water feeder broke. And so they're now replacing everything. And there's these relentless messages. Please don't use water. Do your part. Oh, there was a spike on Sunday. I don't know who's using too much water. Everybody needs to, do their part and cooperate and everything. And it's relentless. It's on the radio, it's on the television. There's little billboards up saying, preserve your water. So people know they're fixing the water lines and they're doing their best naturally. But they have this constant reminder for governments. I don't know, is it nanny state? Is that part of it? Is it that they want to demonstrate leadership? I'm not sure, but it's almost
It just
reflexive
sounds
for
annoying.
governments. Yeah, it's annoying. But now it's with energy, right? You shouldn't be driving your car so much. And then there's the whole we need to reduce taxes. So I was actually kind of surprised that some of the European countries want to reduce the insane sales taxes and whatnot that's on the price of petrol at the station. So yeah,
But
it's
others are
interesting how
talking
government.
about windfall taxes
Oh my gosh, yeah,
for
again,
the energy industry. Yeah, again.
yeah. So in the UK, I don't know if you saw that clip where there was the head of an energy company, and they don't deal in natural gas or whatever, but he said, I used to work for these companies. He said it's extremely cyclical. Sometimes you get this boom. It's like, wow, we have lots of money, and then you hit this trough and you're
Mm.
losing money. And you need those good times to balance out those bad times. But every time there's a good time, the governments take the difference so that the companies don't make very much. And when it's a bad time, governments do nothing. So it's
right.
like the companies are always absorbing um, the bad stuff and never
Yes.
benefiting from the good stuff. So he made some really good points. And I think the British journalist really didn't want to hear that because their windfall tax is already 80%. He's like four-fifths
Holy
of what a
smokes.
company makes goes to the government. And it
Why
has
are
since
these companies
2022.
why are these companies still operating in the UK? How
They're
do they
well,
make
they're
ends
phasing
meet?
out. They're phasing out.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
Make space for more wind turbines.
apparently, and solar panels on every house
Yeah,
in the
maybe on
UK.
decommissioned platforms in the North Sea. That would be a great idea.
Yeah, I'm not picturing it. It's so funny.
And now the Bureau has said that the IEA will release even more barrels on top of those 400 million if need be.
When
Well, don't rush it. I mean, he really doesn't know how to manage panic and anxiety. No, seriously, he could have waited a week or two before he made that pledge.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to get worried about shortages because he's ready to release even more barrels.
I
yeah, that
agree.
was
I
odd
agree.
timing. Yeah, that was odd.
Very, very, yeah.
We've got the same thing in the United States. We had the Treasury Secretary. No, it was Chris Wright, Energy Secretary, over the weekend saying, in addition to this 172 million barrels that we're going to release out of the SPR in the U.S., which was already depleted by Biden, he's
Yeah.
saying, well, we could release more after that. And I'm like, my God, what are we going to take it down to zero? No, this is not This is not smart policy. So, hopefully things are about to calm down in the Middle East right now. Maybe the impetus to doing that will calm down with it. But going back to one thing, was it Tammy or Irina said that governments, like to do these things to show they're doing something, they're taking
Yeah.
action. That's
Most definitely.
always the most dangerous motivation by any politician, to show that I'm doing something. Because generally what they're doing is stupid and counterproductive. And we see it, particularly where energy is concerned. I mean, it's almost never a good thing what they decide to do to show that they're proactive. Anyway.
Yeah, MD Bone. Middle East isn't the only place oil comes from, and MD, that is an outstanding point. And when you sit back and take a look, though, even out of the Middle East, you take a look at the outlets that are going around the Strait of Hormuz. Even though 20% of the world's oil goes through that strait, 5 million barrels per day went this way, 1.2 million barrels went this way, 1.7 mineral barrels went that way. So it's actually not, you start looking at that, it's now coming back down. And this person, I'm not sure who you are. I hope not.
It's been 24 days, dude. Calm down.
I'm hoping that this thing ends quickly. So, and
holy smokes. My favorite is this one. We get this almost every week. What is this channel about? Well, normally, we talk about Dungeons and Dragons and things like that, but we decided to talk about energy today.
To MD Bones' point, it's true. Middle East isn't the only place oil comes from, but it's the place where a lot of oil comes from.
Yeah.
And when that oil is gone and the gas that comes from the Middle East is gone, we have something we call a shortage, and we hate it because whatever the net zero crowd has been doing in the past 20 years, we have not brought down our consumption of oil and gas. And a fifth of that comes from the Middle East. So without it, and that's without even mentioning that different grades of crude oil do not work with all refineries. For example, when we sanctioned, the EU and the US, thank you, USA, sanctioned Lukoil, I'm not happy about this. We had to start importing crude from Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan because they have comparable grades.
Yeah.
We can't just start importing American crude because it wouldn't work with our refinery. And it's true for all refineries. They can be adjusted to work with other grades, blends, types of oil, but it takes time and it takes money. So
exactly.
When something like this happens, refiners look for comparable grades. And my car is not running as well as it did 2 years ago. I blame Kazakhstan.
Well, when that happens to me in the United States, I blame ethanol, the ethanol content, and for damaging my car's engine. Anyway, Stu, I interrupted you. Sorry.
I just blame my wife because she's a horrible driver. But let me go ahead and bring to this. I love my wife, by the way. She's a wonderful, dear lady.
I hope she doesn't watch this show, man. You're in trouble.
She does not. She's a very intelligent lady that does not watch my podcast. Here's one thing I'd like to point out. We have probably one of the single largest energy disruptions in the history of mankind going on right now. I've never lived through this kind of a news cycle. We're watching it play out in real time. Australia is now got real problems trying to plant crops. We have a fertilizer shortage going on around the world. This is a crisis. We have a food crisis coming around. We have a water crisis coming around. We have a diesel shortage coming around. We have jet fuel crisis coming around. If the world were running on solar panels and windmills, we wouldn't have these problems, would we? We wouldn't be running on windmills or solar panels because they can't run all the stuff that oil and gas run. That's the point. This is a real point. We were never in an energy transition.
could I just ask this viewer who said in Australia we have almost zero reserves? Yes, what is Australia going to do about it? I heard that
Oh, yeah,
you
that's
guys
true.
really don't have oil. We got
This
plenty
is a
of
real
gas.
problem. And when the 6 tankers turned back away from Australia, China says, "Oh, sorry, we get all of our coal from Australia, but we're not going to give you any oil and gas." So we've had Exxon ship 2 tankers, I believe, to Australia from the Gulf state in exporting in the past month. So you're going to see more exports coming in from that. But the refined tanking is now going at a premium. We've also got Jeff here.
I agree with Jeff here.
This is Jeff Chestnut for our podcast listeners. The only thing I can come up with for justification of Wright's statement is that we could release more from the SPRs. He's got caught up in the political moment. I want to stand up for the great and wondrous Secretary Chris Wright, because he's put this out as a loan. Anybody that is getting a release from the SPR has to return it with 1.5 barrels going
Swap.
back in.
Yeah.
It's a swap. This is not a release. That is a different ploy than the auto pen did trying to get that. So,
And I need to clarify, that may have been Treasury Secretary Bessent who said that. Now, I'm not positive it was Secretary Wright. It was one or the other of them on one of the Sunday shows.
and by Secretary Chris Wright saying yes to President Trump when President Trump says release the SPR or release McCracken. I'm not sure which part of the movie that was, but he'll say yes, sir. But he releases it with a caveat and say you must repay 1.5. So he's going to be getting around it that way. So
Morning, Robert.
Morning, Robert.
China
We
has
don't know if it's accurate that China has 1 billion barrels in reserve, but it sure has a lot.
Yeah,
A lot. It has been stockpiling for well over a year. So
there's 2 different reserves.
they know how to do energy security.
China has 2 different reserves, one for commercial and one for strategic. And their commercial reserves has, I believe, 5 or 6 more days left in it, but they are still getting oil incoming in. So they keep pushing the goalpost down.
Yeah.
the
So
timing
Jeff
of the
says the
return-
timing
Go ahead, Tammy.
The timing of the return is critical, as when we draw down the SPR, there can be damage to the storage cavern with extended evacuation, which is what happened under Biden. So,
Yep.
yeah.
And they're still, repairing those damaged caverns. So, you don't want to damage more of them.
Yeah. Nobody
does
thinks
Brunei
how
sell?
complicated all this is.
Anybody know who Brunei sells
No
oil to?
idea.
I don't know.
But I'm sure Tammy will check it. She's
I
so
believe that's Governor
I'll check.
Newsom's hair salon.
It's the Brill Cream
Brunelli?
oil. Yeah.
Isn't that Governor Newsom's hair salon, Brunelli? That was a joke. Hair gel,
Yes,
grease,
I get it.
oil.
We get it.
Okay, sorry.
We
It's
get it.
really bad when you have to explain. It's Monday morning, folks. I've already been up early, so just bear with me.
Apparently, Brunei sells their number one trade destination is Australia. Number 2 is China, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia.
Cool.
So,
Well, currently they sell to no one, but that'll change soon, hopefully.
hopefully. I want to go back to David, what you said before, and Stu, about this happening in real time and how everything's happening so quickly and whatnot. And I think one of the interesting things about these crises, if you think about the original Iranian one, it started in 78, it went through pretty much all of 79, and was a problem in 1980 even. And nowadays we expect things to happen and be done in 24 hours. We have zero attention span for anything lasting any length of time.
Yeah.
And so it's like this started on February 28th, and oh my gosh, it's a forever war. And, like you said, David, it's a couple of weeks. And I think it's crappy that it's ongoing. but it's not like the Venezuelan operation where it was over in 24 hours.
Right.
But that's what people expect. And I
Right.
think
Yeah.
that's a bit frightening in our modern society that we just expect things to be over really fast. Oh, this
Yeah,
happened.
because
Boom.
Trump said it was going to be over really fast,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
believed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a product of our instantaneous communications, right? I mean, everybody's so
That
used to
too.
knowing everything that's happening immediately on X or TikTok or whatever platform, social media platform you use, that when something lasts longer than immediately, we get frustrated with it, right? And it is frustrating. I mean, the whole thing is frustrating, and it's having enormous impacts on people all over the world, and it's going to be long-term impacts. And so everything's up in the air, and we're all trying to analyze it and figure out, what's going to happen. What amuses me and what I think is so destructive in our media is, and I really do believe this, I think the 24-hour cable news channels are maybe the most pernicious element of our whole society in kind of influencing our population to believe things that just aren't so. You know,
Yeah.
so today we have this message from the president that there's been uh, talks for the last couple of days that have been productive with Iran, and they're going to pause for 5 days to see if they can work something out. Well, within the next, probably while we're doing this hour-long podcast, there's going to be panel discussions on MS Now, Fox, and CNN
Yeah.
with people who know literally nothing about the energy situation in any part of the world or any element of it, posing as experts on this
Yeah.
subject and making predictions about who's going to get hurt, who's going to be helped, where the price is going to go, and all that kind of stuff. And 2 hours later, Abby Phillip will convene a panel with 4 other people on there who will say exactly the opposite. So our whole society remains confused because all the experts aren't experts anymore. But we demand these immediate forms of communications and information so that we can go out and talk to our friends and claim we know what's going on when we really don't know squat that's actually accurate. And I just think it's a huge problem that our society has to get its arms around here in the US. And I suspect it's no different in Europe or Canada
It's
or
not.
anywhere else. It's just everybody has unreasonable expectations because of our instantaneous communications, which for the most part is a good thing. I'm not saying we need to go back to landline telephones and fax machines, folks. So don't accuse me of that. But we do have to this is a societal issue that we really ought to try to figure out uh, a constructive way to rein it in, because it really is very counterproductive in so many ways.
I think
Yes,
a lot
because
of
it's all
people
about.
are hooked on news, and they don't see it as something that may, or then again, may not be true.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
take it at face value, and this fact that they're hooked. I mean, there are some people who keep their televisions on throughout the day.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
in the
Which is
background.
really
Yeah.
healthy.
May I interrupt for just a second? This is live in the Hormuz Strait. The Jasmine oil products tanker is going through the strait, and I found this very interesting. Notice this smaller boat. It is, quote unquote, a pleasure craft from Iran.
Pleasure craft.
So they paid their
Okay.
$2 million to get escorted? Is
Yeah.
that an
I
escort vessel?
don't know. This is a waiting to happen moment. Is it a unmanned craft that's about to hit it?
Oh,
I
my
don't know.
goodness.
I like the
Anyway,
pleasure craft. I think that's funny.
that is extremely funny. Sorry.
They're having fun.
It's got a
They're having
suitcase full
pleasure
of $2
escorting.
million
Yeah,
on that pleasure
Yeah.
craft. So yeah, they're having a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
That website is marinetraffic.com. Shout out to them. Marinetraffic.com.
They're amazing. There was a question up there from Mike. where he was asking how much refined
Yeah.
products you get from a barrel of oil. 44 to 45 gallons of petroleum products from a barrel of crude oil. So there's 40 out of, I'm not sure how, but a single 42-gallon barrel will produce 44 to 45 gallons of petroleum products. And that's from
The magic of petroleum refining.
that's right. The increase in volume is known as refinery gain, and this is data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration.
How interesting is that? Because the barrel itself only has 32 gallons, right? Or 30.
It says 42.
42, yeah.
42, yes.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because the refining makes the product less dense than the original, because you're
So it
making
expands.
it, so then
Okay.
it fills more.
How about that?
Yeah, but
Great
what do you
question,
think is
Mike.
yeah, thanks for that. What do you think is the biggest crisis? Because I think the biggest crisis is the one with fertilizer shortages,
I was
because
going to say the
they
same thing. Yeah.
affect food.
Yeah.
The
It's-
So
food
North
and
America is well positioned. We have a lot of fertilizers, all of them, and
Yeah.
I think what Canadians are facing, because we're the largest potash producer in the world, like potassium and whatnot, and they're like, why do we have to pay so much more when we have it here? It's like when everything's not a crisis, everyone's happy to sell on the global market and have the global price. But the minute there's a crisis and it increases that global price, the people who produce it get angry because they figure, why should we have to pay more when we have it? Instead of, well, it's a global price. You have to, that's just the way it is. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I
it'll
do
be,
hope you keep more of it at home for your local farmers.
I don't know. It's so expensive. I know farmers who, if they didn't purchase their fertilizer last fall, won't be able to afford to do it this spring. It's just way too much. It's too
That's
expensive.
bad.
Right.
That
So,
shortages of food.
yeah.
This is
Was it,
when the government must intervene in a productive way, as opposed to
Right.
what David accurately observed was largely unproductive intervention. Food
yeah,
is
you
the
would
only
think.
thing they really have to intervene about. Buy the fertilizer that farmers need. I mean, people will need food, and locally produced food would be cheaper than imported food when you have Brent crude at over 103, last I checked, about
well,
15 minutes ago.
in California, we have a government that's interceding in all the local farmers and stealing their water so that they can go in and then claim the water to refill for their reserves and their fish, putting almost all of the farmers out of business in California, which is one of the most biggest areas of food growth in the United States. This is a huge crisis
Yeah.
And
by
the
our
other
own
the
making.
other crisis that's looming is helium, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
what is it? 17% of global helium comes through the Strait of Hormuz every day onto the. I mean, we don't have the problem in the United States because we have plenty of helium, and in Canada, but in parts of the world, they don't have their own helium supplies. They need that helium. And by the way, it's apparently a major feedstock for the producing of microchips in Taiwan and
Yep.
other countries that produce all these microchips. And so if you have a shortage of helium, you're going to end up down the road at some point having a shortage of these computer chips that we need to power the world. So it
What about
may
AI? Could the AI
Oh,
revolution be
no.
postponed?
well, yeah, we could postpone that. I'd be all in
Oh,
favor of it, frankly, but I don't
yeah.
think it's possible.
Well, if there aren't enough chips.
Yeah. It's going to be a problem, folks. Still not convinced. Yes. So still not convinced in Venezuela and Iran have anything to do with oil. I'm sensing all roads lead to China since taking Taiwan, and what we are now doing is to prepare for it. And I think that's right. And I know Stu and I have been talking about that since January.
Yeah. Yeah. Odin has a funny comment here. He says the only thing depressing about knowing the future and how the world ends is that absolutely nobody cares beyond their love for idiocracy.
As it happens, I
And the
do
doom
another
scrolling.
podcast twice a week called Tales from the Idiocracy. You should tune in, but it's on my other Substack, my political Substack. And yes, we are living in an idiocracy in real time and have been for quite some time in the United
Yeah,
States.
we are.
Yeah. Well, not just the US, it's like every Western
No, it's the
country.
world.
Yeah.
Can I ask Irina and Tammy, the elections that seem to be going on in the EU seem to be going right last night. There were a lot of elections going on,
Germany and France.
Germany and France, and people on the right.
Well,
I guess
Germany. I don't know. I mean, when was it? Just a couple weeks ago, the Greens won in a German riding, and now the
Right.
CDP won in this particular riding. And the problem with the European elections is that there's 20 parties,
Yeah.
and they win with 21% of the vote. And there's so many kind of left-wing parties, they crowd out the 2 or 3 conservative parties. And I'm sure they're crowing about how the AFD didn't do well or something, but
Oh,
yeah,
the
I don't know.
AFD doubled its percentage
Yeah,
yesterday in the German
That's good.
election, but
yeah,
it
but still
still
not
doesn't
enough
control
to,
anything. Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I
The
don't know.
same
I
thing in
just hope,
France,
yeah, I
Marine
just
Le
hope
Pen's
the
party.
EU will be too busy watching Hungary to meddle in our elections, and maybe we could get a break. I'm serious. I'm
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
serious.
I love
Yeah, look,
Rodney's comment here. This is so true.
God
When God
runs
runs
out
out
of
of
locusts, he says.
governments, when God runs out of locusts, he sends governments. Well said, Rodney. Love it.
Oh, I wish I'd have thought of that one.
Gotta remember that. Yeah.
We'll see.
But you're right. I mean, they're so obsessed with Hungary and getting Orban out, and I'm concerned about that election. And
They're really
with the,
obvious about it, and
yeah,
that's not good.
the deep state runneth deep, and the deep state is running out of money.
That's a very interesting observation because it has potentially major implications for the future.
It certainly does.
The deep
It
state
certainly
is
does.
getting as like a wolf in the corner right now. Watch what happens.
yeah.
So we've got a new poster here. Odin. Americans are the type of people that grow marijuana indoors just to complain about power outages or fires created by them, along with dead firemen and freezing elderly. Okay.
I
Odin
like the
doesn't
last
like
one.
Americans. Okay. Well, good.
You have to put the
He
last one
follows
on
up
there.
with a very good one here. Civilization ended when the handkerchief went away. So there you go.
I wonder
Absolutely.
how he feels about fax machines.
Fax machines were great. They were
Yeah.
such
I
advanced
hear,
technology at the time.
When was the
I
fax
hear there's
machine
government.
invented?
Oh,
1945,
40.
1943 by the Japanese.
Wait, what?
Cool.
Say that again.
Fax machines were invented by 1943, I believe, by the Japanese. Take a look at it.
Well, I didn't see the
Facsimile.
first one I saw was in 1988, but I'm in America, so we were way behind.
You're older than that, David. Come on.
No, it's the first fax machine I saw.
Oh no, you were there for the original machine.
No, I'm not quite that
And
old.
maybe it took a while from inventing them to, mass producing them and making them affordable enough.
Exactly.
Affordable, what a great word.
So I agree. I tend to agree with the handkerchief comment. I still have handkerchiefs that I received for my high school graduation that have my initials embroidered in them, and they've never been taken out of the box. They're in a box somewhere in my attic. I ought to go break them out because I like handkerchiefs. Handkerchiefs are handy.
Yeah, they are.
I was going to say, I've got underwear older than you is a line that, David, you use. So be careful.
Okay, we're way off the
Okay,
topic here.
we've diverged.
Um,
We've diverged.
we
But
really-
I want to make a comment about the UK because the UK is tripling down on net zero now, and that we
of
need
course.
even more wind and solar. That there's no point developing the North Sea. They're putting out stats that all those fields are depleted. There's no point trying to do anything else. And Catherine Porter has been relentless pushing back on X whenever they make these stupid comments about like, you know, there's a political boundary of jurisdiction in the North Sea between Norway and the UK. And it's just a political boundary because the fields are still, it doesn't just end because they've developed these really big fields on the Norwegian side, which clearly go over to the UK side. But apparently, in the UK mind, once you put that little line on the map, that's it. The oil stops there. So, they're like, there's no oil left in the North Sea, and Catherine Porter's like, come on, you guys. But the propaganda
I
gets
would
out
like
there, and that's the messaging.
I would like to give Liz Truss a shout out. She was the former prime minister of the UK. I had the opportunity to interview her, and she delightfully said that the United States would have never had the neglect by Herr Starmer if she was in there, and she would have already had a trade agreement. I can see why she was run out immediately by the deep state in the UK. She was very upfront, and I just want to give her a shout out. Hopefully, she can get back into power and have people listen to her because she was a breath of fresh air on the interview.
The UK wasn't the only country, though, that's tripling down. I mean, the European central authorities are also tripling down on more wind and solar because now is the time. It's actually the new refrain. Now is the time to get off fossil fuels.
Again.
Which tells you how knowledgeable these people are. Well, we had Dan Jorgensen as example. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, they made the same case in 2022, right? When Russia invaded Ukraine.
absolutely.
And it was, now is the time. This
Yeah,
is,
now's the
we
time.
were
And
smart.
they did their best, and it didn't work.
They blew up those pipelines to get off. I mean, Putin lost his Nord Stream lines to America. Probably it's probably our guys that did that.
And aren't they still determined to have no Russian oil and gas in 2027?
Yes, while buying every single cargo that Novatek produced in February.
Oh my God.
They really think that they can, gobble up all the Russian gas they can get their hands on until, they shut
Until
the
they
door,
can't.
bar it, and lock it. And then where are they going to get the gas from? Seeing as it really looks like the tightness, well, maybe not a shortage later in the year if the war ends, but tightness of supply. Where is it going to come from? By the way, Woodside, was it, or Santos, just shelved a new LNG project, a very big LNG project, Barroso, I think it was called. I just saw
Really?
the headline.
Oh, I didn't
have
see
time
that
to
yet. Okay.
Sorry.
Gotta look
Yeah.
that up. Wow. That seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
I've seen that. It's actually a pretty cool one. I want to put this one up here. Stand behind your country. You quit being a wimp. Yes, Texas is a country, and yes, I stand behind my country.
He's probably
Maybe
talking
it
to me.
wasn't
I don't know.
addressed to you. Maybe it was to one of us. I don't know which country is it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Even if the fighting and the bombing stops this week, it is going to be interesting for a much longer time. I wonder when they'll start talking about the glut again, though.
What I'm trying to calculate. What I'm trying to calculate is the amount of if everybody remembers the old Wendy's commercials, where's the beef? And you see these old ladies flying around in the back of the car. It's kind of an American joke when they're wheeling along like this and she's screaming, where's the beef? Because that was an advertising commercial. I'm going to say, where was the glut? I've always said there's not a glut, and it only took 4 days, and now we have no oil glut. So what I'm trying to calculate is how much has actually been pulled off. And Irina rightfully pointed this out as the right question. How much has been shut in, and how much of it will come back online? So that is a tough calculation I'm working on right now. And it's actually really going to be interesting to see. We are not going to be in an oil glut for a very long time coming out of this.
Yeah, sorry, this viewer, Colette, it's not a new one. Barossa is not a new one, but they're shutting it down for several weeks. I just checked. It's not new. It's an operator. It's a flagship LNG. But sorry, there are so many.
Yeah.
It's confusing occasionally. So they're shutting it down for several weeks. A plant shut down. Okay, it's 3.7 million tons per year. So there goes more supply.
So to go to sort of what Stu was saying there about the glut, whatever they were saying, is gone. But what I sense what the EU is going to do is that they'll say you don't need to invest anymore in oil and gas because demand is going to shift now. People are going to get used to not having the fuel, and they'll make alternatives, and everything will be okay. So you don't need to do any more investment in developing oil and gas, and maybe you shouldn't even fix those refineries or whatever, because people are going to have adapted and moved on. And
so right.
But
You're
we
so
haven't,
right.
and we've seen this repeatedly.
I
We can't
know.
adapt. Yeah, I know. I'm commenting on their words because I'm sure they will say this.
Yes, absolutely they will. I mean, that'll be
Again.
Fadi Birol's next report.
After witnessing the failure of this narrative over the past 5 years.
Yeah, we'll just go through the whole cycle again.
Yeah,
and
they will
back at oil again.
They will discover with amazement that expensive oil and gas also makes panels and turbines more expensive, and they'll start talking about supply chain disruptions again, and it's really so exhausting.
And they'll blame it on something else. It won't be the increased cost of the oil and gas to make the turbines and solar panels. They'll have some other excuse on why it's more expensive, and I'm sure it'll be our fault.
Well, they could blame oil and gas prices, and then blame us for being hooked on oil and gas prices or something like this. They have done it before. They'll do it again. The good thing is, I think a lot fewer people today would believe them than would have believed them, and probably did believe them 5 years ago. So that's good.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting guessing game. Yeah, this is good actually. Irina's piece about Goldman, right? So that, but I mean, that's the no-brainer of the day, right? Or the no-brainer of the year. Yes, you got to increase your oil price forecast because of everything that's happening.
They're now doing it every other day, basically.
Right.
Wow.
But so let's just all take a guess. We're going to be back here a week from today at 7 a.m. Central Time, folks, on the same channel that you're tuned into right now. Let's all take a guess. So WTI, let's just do it on WTI. We started at 99 today. It dropped to 88 as soon as Trump put out that post. It went back to over 92. Now it's back to about 91. Where's it going to be a week from today? What do you think? Where's WTI going to be a week from today?
I say 90 because it's the easiest.
90 is easy. That's a nice round number. Tammy?
Oh, don't make me make a prediction.
Come on.
I hate that. Okay, pick a number. I'm going to say 87.
87. Okay, 90, 80. Stu? 104?
95 as we just kind of go through this. And because I don't know how much has been damaged, how much has been pulled off. I'm trying to calculate in my head. But how long will that 95 hold is another question. There's two different questions. You
Right.
can say, what is it going to be next week? What's it going to be in 3 months? Those are
Well,
two
I'm
different
just,
questions.
oh, no,
Yeah,
we're
he
picking a
said
point in
next
time.
week.
Just
Next
next
Monday.
week. Just next week.
Are you
Next
writing
Monday
this
morning.
down, David?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's in my brain. 90, 87, 95. I got 78.
78.
Khalid has 90.
What?
Yeah, I've got 78
Why do you have 78, almighty one?
because I think we're going to be in a ceasefire and the market's going to price in, where we are. I mean, WTI was 65 before all this started. Let's remember. And
But
it
there
had
was a
been as low as
bloodbath.
58 because
I-
we had an
Right.
oversupplied market. I think 78. I'm just going to go with 78. It's a wild hair. Let's see where we are. Okay.
It's on
It's
paper.
great. I,
It's
on
I,
paper
I think
now.
it's wonderful
Okay.
from a standpoint, David, but let me just say there's been a lot of oil shuttered in
I
or
understand.
come offline.
I
And so
understand.
when you sit back, then you've got tankers flipping all over the place. This is not something that's going to get sorted out quickly. So I think you're a hair low.
Let's just see.
I can
Let's
only
see.
hope David turns out to be right because
I do too.
I like cheap oil.
We love cheap oil. So, I'm
78's
right
not
there
that
with you.
cheap. 78's
So-
not that cheap.
I'm in Alberta right now, and they had their budget release about, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and they have this massive deficit for some reason. But it will be completely wiped out with the higher oil prices. So if the oil prices stay high and sustained for like the next month,
They'll
their
have a
deficit will
surplus.
be wiped. They'll
Yeah.
have a surplus.
And Texas is
thanks.
going to have
That's
another
the
$20
thing.
billion surplus next January
Yeah.
when our legislature meets.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for making David's day so that we don't
had to have
listen
one fan.
We got to have one fan today,
I
and we
got
don't
one
have to
fan.
listen to Eeyore next week. So, nobody loves me. So,
Hey, I've been in a
I
good
appreciate you,
mood
David.
today. I've been smiling and laughing the whole time.
Yeah, you've been smiling. And Paul B here has a point about UK, which is so true, that the UK
Exactly.
energy policy relies on demand destruction. People won't heat their homes next winter, businesses will close, wind and solar will be a bigger share, while the BBC, Ember, and the Guardian will celebrate. Yes, they will. And I think the Climate Change Committee, David Turber had a report last night or this morning. They've released an update about how we need to go even further, faster with net zero, and that this is a great opportunity while people are hurting to get off oil. So, yes, they're already celebrating.
Yeah, well, they won't celebrate for very long because they have to pay the same electricity prices.
Yeah, I know.
Eventually, the pain will reach them too.
Yeah, especially because they blew up their coal power plants. So it's not even like in the Asian countries where they're sort
You
of
can't switch.
unmothballing them. We can't switch in the UK. So if they run out of the natural gas for the turbines that they decided were going to back up the wind and solar, I don't know. And the nuclear is taking forever. So who knows when that'll be online? And yeah, there won't be that power.
Yeah. Well,
I
that was
think Odin needs to have his own podcast. This is
I'm
awesome.
trying to
I love
block him, David.
it. I
He's
think
just
it's kind of fun.
inspired.
It's kind of funny. Just
Did he say something nasty? I didn't see it.
Okay, MD Bone, I'm fighting with David Blackmon right now, trying to block me. And David's over here.
I was
putting
trying to
them
give
back
the
up,
guy's
I'm over
own
here deleting.
podcast, man.
So,
Come on, have a sense of
Oh,
humor.
yeah, he's not,
See,
he's not insulting us.
okay, I thank you. I just have deleted him. I'm tired of him. Thank
some of
you.
this stuff is
He
funny.
did go a little overboard, yeah.
You're such a totally
Let me see.
tyrant. You. But
David,
thanks
you're
for all
killing
the
me, dude.
comments. You had some really interesting comments. Thank you. And useful.
Yes.
Great
Yeah.
comments today. Thank you. Great job, Irina. You did
Especially
very
this one. I just want to highlight this one. Thank you. Yes, I agree.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Well,
What did we solve today? Did we solve anything?
Well, we make price predictions.
Okay. good.
yes.
Oh, Sorry, I love this one. So, hair gels in salon is Jiffy Lube. I love that. And you bet I want to try to share the calculations out as soon as I can get them done. It's my head's exploded trying to figure all that out.
Well, have a great week, everyone.
That was a lot of fun.
Thanks, everybody. See you
Yeah.
next week.